is time for you to get out of the day-to-day mundane of your business and focus not only on the growth, but the enjoyment of the growth of your business. Today, we're talking with Bruce Schronce of StrongLead, and he's going to help us out. Check it out.
Welcome to Body Bangin', your podcast for all things body. Auto body, that is. And now, introducing Body Bangin's host, Mickey Woods of Mickey Woods Marketing. Mickey is a former auto collision center owner and is now a marketing and business development expert to shops across the globe.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Body Bangin' podcast, where we are talking with those that had sessions at the Southeast Collision Conference. And of course, we can't even get to our main event, the main speaker today, until we thank our sponsor. And that is Lombard Equipment. They are sponsoring this whole series. They were actually a sponsor at the Southeast Collision Conference. And Lombard Equipment, if you guys don't know already, they sell new and refurbished equipment. They sell quality welding systems. I know a lot of shops that I'm talking to lately, that's really what they're in search of. And the really cool part that I love about them is they actually answer the phone when you call. You don't get kicked over to a robo thing where you got to push the buttons to get to the person. So give Lombard Equipment a call if you need any equipment. So today on the show, he's been on before. We've talked to him before. Bruce Schronce of StrongLead. He's StrongLead CEO. How's it going, Bronze? Welcome back. Or Bruce Bronze. Bruce Schronce. Bronze.
I'm not liking your name.
I like it, right?
Thank you. It's good to be back on here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So your class was, I'm just going to read it. It was called, and I love this, Nurturing the Goose That Laid the Golden Egg. So tell us a little bit about that you talked about.
Well, it's funny because we actually did a roundtable session several months back for several communities, and we used this as a topic. And it's really about helping businesses know what where they might be killing that goose that laid the golden egg for their business and how to protect that. And so if you think about that old fable, there's a farmer, he has a goose that lays golden eggs. Mm-hmm. He did not know that it laid goose or laid golden eggs when he got it. And then when he realized what was going on, he thought he would just kill the goose to get directly to the golden eggs, but there were no eggs there. And so it's kind of that mindset of, hey, you've got a great business. Now, how do you protect that and not kill the goose?
Yeah, I love that. I actually didn't know that that's what the fable was about. That he tried to kill the goose to get to the egg. That's the first time I've heard that.
Well, you're not the only one, so yeah.
I mean, I've heard of, the goose that laid the golden egg, but I didn't realize that was part of the story. So interesting. Well, and you spoke in your session, and I have the little synopsis here. You talked about, and this is a short episode for those of you guys listening. This is just a snippet about what Bruce talked about. But there were 5 critical aspects that you talked about when growing the business, maintaining that golden egg, which I love. Now that I know the full story about this, I love this even more.
Yeah. So if you think about it, it's so easy. We develop a business because we love what we do. Yeah. And we get into it, it starts to grow and it starts to expand. And then we start to become overwhelmed a lot of times. And we focus so much on the technical aspects, and we don't realize that what really needs the protection is the rest of the business. And I remember reading a story in a Patrick Lencioni book a while back, and when it was talking about an old episode of Lucy, where Ricky comes in and he says, and Lucy's on the floor in the living room and she's crawling around, and Ricky says, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm looking for my earrings." And he says, "You lost your earrings in the living room?" And she says, "No, I lost them in the bedroom, but the lighting is better in here." And so you think about it a lot of times. That's how we function sometimes. We're not dealing with the real issues because we're dealing with what's more comfortable with us, right? And so I thought it'd be probably a good idea to speak to owners and business leaders about what are the critical ways of protecting that goose. And, those can show up One of the ways might be yourself. Just, again, you are the owner. You had a vision. You had a great idea. You're technically savvy. You developed this business, but then it starts to wear you out. And so what does it look like to protect yourself? Another aspect might be the people. Another aspect might be the culture or the processes. Really, it gets down to critical priorities. And a lot of times, again, it's easier to give ourselves to the technical skills that we've developed, but a lot of times that's not taking care of the business.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you say that, because I think human nature, we oftentimes gravitate towards the things that we can easily tick off the boxes for because we're comfortable with it. And we have the big, like, looming, I don't know if the right word would be issues, but things to work on that we really know we should, but we shy away because it's almost like we don't know where to start. So we'll do everything we can to do everything else versus take care of that situation. Is that kind of what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. So when we get into this, it's a hard thing because people don't feel comfortable a lot of times talking about that until they get into it. And really what it is, it's typically they don't feel comfortable leading in it. But if they've got somebody else helping them in that process, then they start to think a little deeper in it. They become a little bit more relaxed with the process, and they start to really get to the things that are really maybe undermining the business, and they're just not paying attention because they're so wrapped up in the day-to-day activities. So.
Right. Now, when you're talking about the owner or the manager of the business, what are some of the things that you coach your people on so that they can take care of themselves? Are we talking emotionally, stress, capacity type thing?
Yeah. So typically one of the things that we'll use is what we call a success compass. And in that success compass, we break it into different parts. At the very center of that compass is their vision and their purpose. What's this really all about? Who are they? What's their purpose? What they want the purpose of their business to be? And then around that, we have blocks where we put critical core values for those owners. And so you've got vision. Now you've got these critical core values. A lot of times we don't realize that we might be fighting against our core values, again, because we're kind of lost in the business.
Right.
And then we think there's 4 spheres of influence that everyone has. There's these 4 spheres of influence. You got influence over yourself, your family, your business, your community, or your clients, whatever. And so we take through that process about what does it look like for them to be showing up as the best version of them? What kind of influence or impact do they want to have on those other 3 areas of influence? And then what might be getting in the way of that? And I'll give you a good example. We've got a great client that we work with, not in the collision industry, but in another industry. And it's a leader that is really strong technically. He's built just a crazy business, but he has become really poor in his communication with his employees, and it's starting to undermine the value of that he would have for those employees. He don't really want to do that, but he doesn't even realize that it's happening. So we're having to, just back him out of the weeds and really do some coaching with him about what does it look like for him to communicate in a way that is better at getting the results he's looking for.
So in this situation that you're talking about, was he able to self-define the issue of the communication, or did it take you or your team to come in to help him see that?
Yeah, he wasn't able to. Yeah. It became really clear once we got into it. And one of the first things we do is try and provide a safe place for people because, you get in these leadership roles. I'm the same way. You get into a leadership role and you don't see your blind side a lot of times.
Yeah, right.
And you're also not safe. You don't feel like you're in a safe environment sometimes to even discuss that until you know that you're dealing with someone that's going to protect that. It's going to provide some safety in that process. And so it's one of the best things that a lot of times we bring to an organization other than leadership and business consulting competencies is the fact that we're not part of their organization. Right. So it allows them to be safe with us.
Right. Well, it's kind of like
Conversation.
the Tom Brady's. You're like, how does Tom Brady have a performance coach? Because he's the best.
Yeah.
But like, we all need help when it comes to our own things. Even if we're good at like for me, I'm great at marketing for other things. And oftentimes when I'm marketing my own business, I'm like, what am I doing? It's like these weird blinders that we have for ourselves sometimes. It's such an interesting thing and it's a beautiful thing because we really, when you work with somebody like yourself and your team, you really truly understand the value of having that third party, that separate person that isn't emotionally invested, so they can look at it clearly and find some of the issues. And like you're saying, these shops and shop owners are building a beautiful business to have a profit, to make money, to be able to retire and enjoy the rest of their life. Meanwhile, like what you're saying, they're getting stuck in the grind of all the tech pieces of it. And are we fixing the cars right? We're so caught up in that like all those other pieces that you were talking about with staffing and personal and all of those things are getting forgotten about because we get so caught up in the day to day.
Yeah. The lighting's better in the living room, right?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Yeah. So do you find that of the 5 main areas, do you find that there is more pushback when you're working with somebody than any other area, or one area that you guys find oftentimes needs to be fixed that typically the businesses that you're working with aren't seeing?
It can vary, quite honestly, but a lot of times it will have to do with the personal development of the individual, especially as an owner. I remember when I first started our leadership development organization, I talked to people about leadership development and then culture, or then vision, then culture, I said that wrong. It's leadership, culture, and vision. And most owners didn't want to hear me talk to them about how to be a leader of their business because they're the expert, right? And I thought, okay, I need to re-engineer this. And so we reverse engineered it. So we're talking about the vision and then the culture and the leadership, because they really typically, at least when we start working with them, they either already have or get to a great vision, and then they know it's going to take a culture to establish and sustain that vision. But then they got to commit to the leadership that shapes that. Might be theirs, it might be someone else on their staff or in their team. But typically, the biggest business problems are people problems. And so that's the part that people have the hardest time dealing with. It might just be holding other people accountable. Might be a disciplinary issue. So
good point. Yeah, when you're dealing with people, it could be so many things, right? And I'm sure you guys see it all. Yeah, I really would have. I would have loved to have sat in this, even reading through the little, it's a small little bio that I saw on the website. And I think that this concept here, I think needs to be talked about more in our industry, in the collision industry. I'm sure for every business, but I'm just worried about the collision industry.
Well, culture is so, the culture you create is so critical to a successful business, especially in today's day and time when you've got such a deficiency of workforce. Yes. And so that culture helps obtain your workforce, helps retain your workforce, and they can go anywhere they want to. Right now, there's just so many jobs available. Right. So we find that when people start paying attention to the goose and the culture of the organization, they better at attracting and retaining more workforce. Yeah, that's a good point. And because I'm blessed, I get to talk with a lot of different shops across the country. And what's interesting is if you were to ask, I would say most all of these people that are owning and running shops, and if you ask them about the culture, most would immediately say like, oh yeah, it's good. And then once you dialed it in and start talking with them, then you really recognize, okay, well, wait a minute, maybe it's not so good. And I think part of it is we're dealing with very type A typical personalities that are achievement oriented. And to think
that your culture is not that good would almost get in the way of the success you think you're going to have with your business. Sure. It's like this mindset of if I think it's good, then it's going to be good, versus taking a moment to recognize there could be an issue. And sometimes we just, like you said before, you literally can't see it in yourself or in your group because you've got the rose-colored glasses on. So you think it's great, but meanwhile, everybody else is grumbling. And one thing to kind of add on to that, what I really liked about your little synopsis, it was not just growing a successful business, but enjoying a successful business.
Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest issues we deal with. We have owners that are growing successful businesses from a prosperous perspective, but they're not really enjoying that growth. And again, it's typically because of the culture that's allowing to happen. And a lot of times it's not a overcompensing culture. It might be just certain parts of it, but it's enough that they're having a hard time dealing with, and it just makes it miserable for them. So, yeah. And we tell so many companies this that we work with is that just because you've got something that needs to improve, that doesn't mean you're a bad company. It's typically good companies that are really hiring leadership development, just like Tom Brady. He's a great quarterback, right? But he still brings a coach to help him keep tweaking his game. Right. And another good sign of a great leader. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. For so long, it's been a weakness to admit that you need help. Yet, on the other side of it, the shops that I see that are really involved with the 20 groups and have a coach and are really growing and enjoying, like you said, their business and their life, and they have balance, those are the ones that have the help. So whatever this mindset is of, I don't need help, I don't want to ask for help, that if you want to be successful, and I guess it depends on what somebody thinks success is, there's that piece of it. But I would really encourage people, everybody listening, to reach out to Bruce and his team, somebody else, start getting some feedback to help you get to not just the growth, but the enjoyment piece of it. Because otherwise, what are we doing? What are we doing every day? Killing ourselves.
Exactly right. Yeah. We typically our clientele is repeat clientele year after year after year. Because once they get involved with it, they see that it's one of the greatest return on investments for their money.
I bet.
Because it really does protect the culture and alleviate their biggest problems, because always their biggest problems are people. It's not the technical aspects, it's the people issue.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's much easier to get support on the technical pieces because it's data. It is what it is. But getting the buy-in and getting everybody cohesive to work together and on the same, that's the big rat's nest, right?
Yep, absolutely, no doubt. There's a book I would recommend for most people. It's called The Advantage. It's Patrick Lencioni book, and subtitle of it is Why Organizational Health Trumps Everything Else in Business. But it's just a great perspective of taking a look at what's really important in your business for both sustainability and being able to enjoy the business while you're in it.
Great. Okay.
Book.
So we got to look it up. The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, which he's amazing anyway. Wow. Well, this is awesome. Bruce, I'm going to put, I would love to talk to you more about this, but I promised that we were going to keep these episodes short.
That's right.
Because your girl has questions, but we're going to put your information in the show notes. So if anybody wants to reach out and get some assistance with this, which again, gosh, I've had coaches and it has taken me to heights. It unlocks. So you can only take yourself so far, right? Otherwise, you'd be, through the moon, to the moon. So working with somebody like you guys, you're highly reputable. I know a lot of people speak really highly of you. They loved your session that you did at the Southeast Collision Conference. So thank you for taking your time to come to that and participate in our industry. And there's a lot of shops out there that are hungry and want to do better and have that enjoyment and happiness. So So appreciate you. But all your information will be in those show notes for people to reach out.
Thank you, Mickey. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Yes, it's good to see you. Well, thank you guys for listening. And thank you to our fantastic sponsor, Lombard Equipment. Although they serve Miami to Maine, if you're in any other part of the country and you have questions on equipment, they are more than happy to help you out. Their information is also in the show notes, so you can reach out to them as well. And we will see you on the next episode where we talk to another one of our speakers at the Southeast Collision Conference. See you next time.
If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We have some incredible topics and guests coming your way you will not want to miss. If you are watching on YouTube and don't want to miss the latest and greatest, you'll want to hit the bell after subscribing, so you will get a pop-up each time a video podcast goes live. To our devoted fans, would you mind paying it forward and sharing this little gem with someone else you think may benefit from it? Much love from all of us here at Body Bangin', all things auto body.